You beautiful people. Good morning. What's up? Dan Kasper Show is on the air on your radio dials 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. You can also get the link to the YouTube stream on our website. Otherwise, you've got the Sports Talk app and your Google and Alexa home devices. Happy Thirsty Thursday, everybody. Who you toasting? Who you cheering this morning? Send them on over. Let's give them a little bit of shout outs here. Text it 715-830-1912. Or you can find me on Twitter at DANKASPER. Also, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports or on that YouTube live video stream. Baseball's back. We got some games, regular season games getting started. Today. Got a few of them in there. New York, the Yankees going up against Houston. That should be a good series to start off the quote-unquote half of the season. Should be a fun one right there. Texas at Miami. And by the way, these two games starting at 12:10. Then the Giants taking on the Dodgers too. So we got a few games. Brewers, though, they'll be getting back at it tomorrow. Corbin Burns slated to get the start for the Brew Crew with their series against the Rockies. So obviously this week we've been kind of taking a look at, second half and possible trade targets, storylines, all that good stuff. MLB.com has a piece up there where they took a look at assessing midterm reports, assessing each team at the break. And for the Brewers, we'll look at the Brewers and the Twinnies over there too. But for the Brewers, it was kind of a midterm report, ask again later, as they termed it. Brewers reached the break in first place in the National League Central, but there's no doubt they are a flawed first place team. Injuries took a bite out of the rotation during the first half, though most resolved before the break, and things are looking up for Freddie Peralta, who remains on the IL. The hitters collectively rank 14th out of 30 Major League Baseball teams in weighted runs created, plus, with uncertainty in the center field, perhaps third base if they want to continue moving Jace Peterson and Luis Urias around the field. And maybe left field if Christian Yelich's stiff back again turns into a lingering concern. The bullpen's big three, Boxberger, Williams, and Hader, looked like the strength of the team until Hader faltered in a big way during the week leading to the break. Bottom line, David Stearns has a multitude of areas to explore as he looks to improve the team before the trade deadline, and prioritizing those will be critical. This team will probably look a little different come the first week of August. I'd agree with that. I mean, I feel like, said it yesterday, I feel like this Brewers team is going to look a little bit different, that there's going to be some trades. I feel like Stearns is probably already making some phone calls, putting some feelers out and all that fun stuff. But they'll get started tomorrow. But would you agree with that assessment? What would your first half assessment be for the Brewers? And then taking a look at second half predictions. What are your second half predictions for the Brewers? Anybody want to go with some bold predictions? Going to make a bold prediction like they're going to trade for Juan Soto? I won't go that far. But, when you look at these teams that are involved in potential trades for Juan Soto, I mean, you got your odds, your Vegas odds, you've got your favorites and that, and they're always the big market teams, right? It's the Mets are up there, the Dodgers are up there, hell, the Yankees are even up there. I mean, it's the bigger market teams. Once in a while, we've heard the Brewers involved in big name players. Remember a couple years ago was Manny Machado, and obviously the CC Sabathia trade afterwards, or in 2008, but not too much do you hear like a team like the Brewers involved in that, or maybe even like the Twins for the most part. Does that kind of bug you? It's always the same teams, and it's always the teams that it's got the cash, that aren't afraid to go over the luxury tax or pay a little bit extra, and that that's why they call baseball a soft cap and payrolls and budgets and all that. But yeah, Canada's like, it's just the same thing. It's always the same teams, right? Always the same teams. So we'll talk some baseball coming up here just a little bit. 1 week from today, Packers will open up training camp practice number 1. The Packers finally releasing the times of said practices. So the first 3 public practices, in case anybody's thinking about going down, July 27th, July 28th, and the 30th will begin at 10:45 a.m. So anybody planning to take the kiddos down with their bikes and that, plan accordingly. Get there early though too. Gonna have to get there early and get in line there. But with it being 1 week away from the first training camp practice, who or what position group are you most interested in? So let's say you guys and gals were coming with us down to training camp, okay? Say that you were coming with us on Thursday. Right? What, Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. Wednesday. It's less than a week away. Come on, Dan, get your dates right. Holy moly. Thinking today's Wednesday, but we're less than a week away. So, but if you were going down with us, who or what position group would you be most interested in, like, scouting? Like, if you wanted to, like, oh, that's who I want to pay attention to. That's who I want to see. That's what I want to get some first impressions on. So, it's like, who would you want to take a look at? Is it the wide receivers? Is it the rookies? Is it the tight ends? Is it the offensive line? You want to see the health over there? Who would you want to be looking at less than a week from today when we're down there? Packers did work out some veterans yesterday, including John Brown, the wide receiver, who bounced around with 4 teams last year. If you remember John Brown, he got his start with the Cardinals a few years ago. He was drafted in 2014, and he does have 1 season with over 1,000 yards receiving. That was his second season of his career. But yeah, first spent the first part of his career with the Cardinals, a little bit there with the Ravens in 18, then Buffalo in 20. I spent some time with Denver and Jacksonville. I mean, he's bounced around here a little bit, but the Packers bringing him in. They do have 1 roster spot. Do have 1 roster spot open. Now, would that be for somebody like John Brown? Would it be for another position group? Who knows? But Green Bay bringing in some guys for some workouts as they are just a few days away from opening up training camp. So they got that one. I'm sure we'll find out some more here and that, but we'll talk a little football coming up a little bit later on. About 8 o'clock, 8:05 this morning, we'll catch up with our good friend, Mr. Jake Boakes, DNR Warren, answering your questions. So last call. If you have any last minute, last second questions for Mr. Jake Boakes as we approach maybe some deadlines for tags and all that. I know the bonus tags for deer hunting is gonna be coming up here in a few weeks, in the middle of August, couple weeks there. But if you have any last minute questions that you want me to pass along to Mr. Jake Boakes, Wisconsin DNR warden, you can text those babies on over to the Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, 715-830-1912. So we'll catch up with him around 8:05. Also, we'll play a little receiver to fur coming up about 7:45-ish this morning, 7:45-ish this morning. So as we usually do on a Thursday morning. So let's jump right into it, okay? Let's get things going here this morning on that Wisconsin Credit Union leadoff. Let's talk some baseball. We got some teams back in action today. Brewers will be back in action tomorrow. But what is your assessment of this team, of this Brewers team, of the Twins, or your favorite team, whoever it may be? But what is your assessment of where they're at, or what's your assessment of like the entire the entire league? Is it, Yankees and Dodgers and everybody else? Like at this point, would you predict a Yankees and Dodgers World Series, or would you take the field? Kind of would you go about how would you go about that? So just kind of assess the entire Major League Baseball season so far. Anything kind of standing out to you? I know they're starting to talk about Cy Youngs, who's on their odds, and MVPs and such. But if we're taking a look at individual teams, like with the Brewers and the Twins and the overall league, what would your assessment be now that we're getting ready to kick off this quote unquote second half of the season? So we'll take a look at that and all that fun stuff. So let's get things rolling. Wisconsin Credit Union lead off. Take that first break. We'll take your thoughts. Hit us up with some texts, tweets, Facebook, YouTube posts, all that good stuff. We'll be back.
The Dan Kasper Show will be right back after these words.
Got a take on today's topics but can't call in? Then hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or the text line and let your fingers do the talking.
Come into Value Implement and see our lineup of Kubota equipment, rated #1 in reliability in the under 100 horsepower category. With products like the BX, B, and L series, they're designed for easy operation and feature performance-matched attachments. You own the land? It's time to have the right tractor, and our experts will help you find it. Great financing options are available, so stop by one of our 4 locations today or go to valueimplement.com for details.
From the folks that brought you Influencer Marketing on the Rocks comes Remarketing on the Rocks with Midwest Family and NaviQuest. What is remarketing and what is retargeting? Your website may be attracting lots of traffic, but are you converting traffic into customers? Learn how to capitalize on lost website traffic at the Brewing Project August 17th from 4 to 6 p.m. Remarketing on the Rocks. This is a free seminar with complimentary beverages and hors d'oeuvres. Learn how to market in a cookieless world. See examples of first-party data to hyper-target potential buyers, target audience who are more likely to convert, and keep your brand top of mind by strategically showing ads to interested audiences, along with affordable marketing tactics available on a range of platforms and channels. And the nice thing is, this is suitable for every industry and vertical. Remarketing on the Rocks, the Brewing Project, August 17th from 4 to 6 p.m. Register today.
A lot of fun last night at the ASAP Used Auto Parts Car Show. So it was good to see G-Man, JR, and a bunch of other people chatting with a bunch of other people there. It was a lot of fun. So shout out to ASAP Used Auto Parts for a fantastic job of hosting the car show there last night. So wanted to make sure I give them a nice shout out here this morning, and reminder, if you're looking maybe to get a little oil change, some tires, some batteries, maybe looking to save some money on some auto parts, ASAP Used Auto Parts, they're your location, go-to location for all that. So check them out. It's 1330 Menominee Street in Eau Claire. We got a couple of, or I should say more than a couple, a few pictures up on the Facebook page, including G-Man there with that Packer vehicle. That was pretty sweet there last night. Speaking of G-Man predicting a Brewers and Twins in the World Series. Brewers will win it all. I think you're trying to rile up JR this morning. There, G-Man. I like it. So, like that prediction. That'd be a lot of fun. Let's get things rolling here this morning on the Wisconsin Credit Union leadoff. Good morning, late intern.
Right on time, baby.
You know, you obviously don't follow the Vince Lombardi.
6:30.
No. Nice try. Nice try.
Oh, okay.
I'll give it to you because you're about 95 years old. So
I'm getting close. Getting close.
You're all decked out in the denim this morning, huh?
Yeah, well, we're probably going to end up at the Barron County Fair in Rice Lake a little bit later on.
Nice.
A lot of fair activity. Barron County, St. Croix County, La Crosse County, a lot of fairs.
Making the rounds. That a boy.
Busy time of the year.
Was it? How was it last week at the Northern Wisconsin State Fair?
Good.
Last week overall was busy for you.
Oh boy,
Farm
I'm
Tech
telling
Days.
you what, yeah, it was.
You need another month vacation.
I'll go for that. We need a 13th month here.
Exactly.
But it's always a fun time of the year to get out, and it's so much. And where was I? I was at an event, I don't know, a week or so ago, but and I was watching it because there were a lot of parents there. Oh, I know where it was. It was at a ball game. A lot of parents, a lot of kids. And as I commented, I think I mentioned this earlier, it was so good for me to see there were more parents on their devices than there were kids. The kids were out playing and the parents were sitting in the bleachers, mom and dad next to each other, and they're both on their phones. They're not talking to each other. So it was good to see that there were more parents on their devices than there were kids. The kids are getting out and having fun in the summertime. And they'll be doing that at the fairs, as you know. And let's see, the Taylor County Fair has got to be coming up.
End of the
soon.
month here. Yeah.
So that's coming up too. So lots of fun times.
Oh yeah. So, all right, let's get things rolling here. Speaking of some fun times, baseball's regular season picking back up today with a few games here. We got a fun series between the Yankees and the Astros starting today, but Brewers and them will be getting going tomorrow. So midterm reports assessing each team at the break. MLB.com did that for each team. But for the Brewers, we already kind of went through it there, but they said for the Brewers, ask again later because they're expecting the Brewers to make some moves here and there. And I think the Brewers are going to make some moves. Trade deadline's coming up on August 2nd, so maybe we will get a flurry of more rumors and reports, or maybe even some trades before April 2nd. But with still some teams in contention, the prices are going to go up, supply and demand for a lot of these players. So how would you assess this Brewers team from the first half of the season heading into the second half, the quote unquote second half?
Started off well, going into the All-Star break. The last month or so shaky. I mean, on offense, even the pitching. I mean, you get by Corbin Burns, you get by Woodruff, and of course we don't have Peralta. You get by those two guys, and it's shaky. They give up too many home runs. They're just, and Josh Hader, always somebody told me when you look at the figures, you always see he doesn't do well in July. Well, I don't know what the numbers show, but boy, he's had a couple of outings that have been real. That San Francisco outing was absolutely mind-blowing. I would never bet that could happen to Hader, but you watch his pitches, and I don't know if he's trying to throw a slider, but his slider doesn't go down. His slider goes from side to side. Well, you do that to major league hitters, they're going to lose it on you, just like San Francisco did. But, they're shaky. They've got to make some moves. They have no choice. They really don't have a choice because the fans turn out all the time. Big fan attendance. The fans are loyal. The fans spend money. You got to reward them with at least a good attempt at bringing some more talent, because right now I'd say this team is shaky.
Yeah, shaking at best. I saw, you mentioned Josh Hader's numbers here. Hader's numbers in the month of July are his worst, according to the Journal Sentinel, where he's 3-7 with a 5.06 ERA in 40 appearances to date. That was a few days ago when that was posted by the Journal Sentinel.
Yeah, those aren't good numbers for him when you're considered, one of the 2-3 best relievers, closers in baseball. You got to be better than that.
Yeah, because remember, we were talking at the beginning of the year, just he wasn't allowing any runs. He wasn't allowing any hits. We were talking about save records for the Brewers and that. And then the month of July, the calendar flips around and you got that Twins game where he gave up the walk-off home run there, and then followed it up with that Giants. Do we want to call it performance? Giants.
That was unbelievable. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, even when they said, "Well, Hader's bad," but I said, "Well, he'll never do anything like that." I mean, for him to do that was, that was eye-opening to me. I didn't think he could be hit that well by so many guys in one inning like that. That was a real shock, and I think it's abnormal. It's not something that you're going to see regular from Hader, but it happened, and I think you got to be aware of the fact that obviously if it happened once, can it happen again? I sure hope not, but they need help. Now, I don't know whether it's help on the mound. I don't know who's available that could help them, but I mean, they've got some pitchers right now that they just give up too many home runs. They just do. The other team hits the ball hard on these guys, and I don't know if they've changed from earlier in the season. Lauer and Ashby and some of these other guys were pretty good, and they've been awful shaky.
Looking at these next couple of weeks here, we've got this series against the Rockies, 4 games starting tomorrow. Then the 2 games against the Twinnies right after that. Then they go on the road to Boston and then Pittsburgh, and then they got the Reds. But then, you're looking at these 2 weeks, just how important is it for the Brewers to get off to a hot start? Because starting on August 9th, you've got a 2-game series against Tampa Bay. Then you go on the road against the Cardinals. And then you're rewarded by coming home, but it's 4 games against the Dodgers. And then you got a quick series against the Cubbies, and then you go on the road to face the Dodgers again after that. So I got to imagine this is, these first couple of weeks here starting tomorrow, this is very important, crucial for the Brewers to get off to a fast start, to win some of these games, to win these series, because it's going to get pretty darn hard starting on August 9th all the way through August 24th, when you've got series against Tampa Bay, Cardinals, and 2 of them against the Dodgers.
Absolutely. And they've shown that they can't, lately, earlier in the season, they beat Pittsburgh every time they played them. Then they had those 2 series against Pittsburgh and the Cubs, and they were horrible. You can't do that. That's why I say you're exactly right. If they don't, the next 15, 20 games could determine the pennant.
And it's essentially tied at the division because Cardinals got rained out in their final game. Who knows what happened, but it's just a half-game lead, right now in the division over the Cardinals. So, I mean, we were talking about too, this, I think they got this series against the Cardinals for 3 games, and then you've got 4 more in the month of September. It's a 2 and a 2, and that's it. So you've got to win these other games and take advantage of this, because you're not going to have opportunities to go up against the Cardinals and, increase your lead that way, because that'll be the easiest way to increase it or decrease it, or fall behind a little bit.
And you look at the talking heads on, some of the national talk shows that you see, and they talk about favorites for the World Series, who's going to get in the World Series. Brewers aren't even mentioned. Earlier in the season, they were mentioned, but now they're not even mentioned. So they've got to do something to turn this around, because Freddie Peralta, I don't know how far away he is, if he's logical to come back at all this year, and whether or not he's going to be in shape. But you can't go very far with 2 starting pitchers that are good and not much else.
I was looking at Yahoo.com. sports.yahoo.com, and they were looking at odds. And one of the questions that they said, which team can make a surprising run? Is there a team that profiles like the 2021 Braves who can win a World Series after being buried at midseason? And they say the Milwaukee Brewers have a reasonable World Series odds and a 63.9% chance to win their division, according to Fangraphs projections. If you believe in the Cardinals to win that division, their plus 4,000 odds to win the World Series aren't bad. Brewers, they have plus 2,500. Or perhaps the White Sox are the most Braves-esque pick. So they did mention Brewers, White Sox, and, well, Cardinals there. They got to win. They got to beat the Cardinals first.
But I don't think you can look at those numbers with the status quo. I think you've got to look at the Brewers making some upgrades someplace. I don't know where it's going to be or how they're going to do it, because, like you said, everybody knows the teams that need to have help. The Brewers are there, and so they're going to hold you up. You got some kind of leagues you just don't want to get rid of, and so Stearns, Council, Atanasio, they got some big decisions to make. But I don't think, being where they are right now after the All-Star break in first place, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, some of these guys just have to step it up, and they're not. I mean, have we given up on Yelich as far as being a major factor, a major player like he was during his obviously, he's never going to return to his MVP form. He's shown that over the last 2 or 3 years. But can he step it up enough to give him some hope? Urias, Adames, Tellez, you got Peterson, you got Taylor. You got a lot of guys on this roster, but they're not consistently making a difference. And that's what you have to have. When you're in a push for the pennant, you got to have guys that are consistently going to knock the ball, And again, I said it before, it's so frustrating. They get guys in scoring position and they're striking out. They're not putting the ball in play. And, they've got to have guys that can put the bat on the ball and on a consistent basis. And they need some upgrades. I don't think you can argue that.
Here's some interesting numbers from Fangraphs here, taking a look at across the league here. So to make the playoffs, they've got a couple of teams that already 100%. It's the Yankees and the Astros. Duh. I think we would all agree with that.
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
They've got the Blue Jays, if we're sticking with the AL East, 87.9% to make the postseason. Then the Tampa Bay Rays at a 70.5%. The AL Central is a little interesting, even though the Twinnies are leading it 50 and 44. They've got the second best odds to make the playoffs, according to Fangraphs. They're still high on the White Sox, a 54.6% chance. Twins, 47.6%. AL West, they've got the Mariners at a 67.8% because they're on that ridiculous run right now.
Boy, that kid they got, that rookie that was in the
home
run derby. I wasn't aware of him, but boy, he's got potential superstar written all over him.
Mm-hmm. In the National League, the Mets are at a 99.6, Braves a 98. The NL West, Dodgers, not 100, but 99.9. Then the Padres, 77.3, Giants, 52. The Brewers they're fairly high on making the postseason, 73.4%. And they've got the Brewers at a 3.5% to win the World Series. For numbers comparisons, Padres, they have at a 4.4, Dodgers 16.6, Mets 14.4, Braves 13, Astros 15.7. So just to kind of give you, but the White Sox, they got it at a 1.5. So, I mean, take it for what you want. But
and there's no question the Brewers are going to, win the pennant. And I'm talking about the division and then the National League. And then they've got to catch lightning in a bottle. And that means they've got to make some moves that really pay off. I mean, let's face it, when the Nationals won the World Series, they had some guys that really stepped up, Soto and a couple other guys.
Including Trent Grisham from the Brewers.
Yeah. They had some guys that
Same with the error in right field.
Yeah, exactly. I know it. Yeah, don't remind me. But that's the Braves last year. I mean, Freddie Freeman, a great player, but boy, he hit out of his head. And they had some other guys that really stepped up and did some things. And
I think that's what the Brewers need.
Exactly. Just going to get to that point. Is Yelich capable of coming back and really putting on a show like a Freddie Freeman did, or Soto did for the Nationals, and a couple other guys for the Nationals that year? I don't know if Yelich has that in him anymore. I mean, he doesn't. I think he's got a lot of talent. He's smooth. He does everything so easy, but I never see any urgency in his game. Now, maybe that's the secret to his success over the years, but now it's not translating into success. And, I have no question about Yelich being a great baseball player, but you need production out of your great players, and we're not getting it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we were talking about it last year with that Brave series, and maybe with the Braves and Brewer series, or maybe after the postseason, is like if we just had like that Freddie Freeman guy who comes up. I mean, because last year, how many, he had a few big time home runs or hits, in that postseason. And that's what I think we talked about. We would love to see have, a Brewer player kind of step up and be that guy.
And I don't know who it is.
Or maybe they're not on that team right now.
Yeah, maybe that's what I mean. That's why I say they've got to make some moves and hope they work. But can you get that out of a guy that's batting leadoff? Freddie Freeman obviously is third in the order. That's a big spot. And Yelich batting leadoff, who is a third place hitter for the Brewers right now that you could put in a category that could say, oh, this guy gets hot. But I don't know who that is. It's not Urias. It's not Adames. They're just not consistently. You got to be great to be a third place hitter that makes a difference. That's where Yelich, I think, was, but now batting leadoff, that's a completely different scenario than batting third.
Yeah. Let me throw this question out there. Do you think the Brewers have the talent right now, the right people in place right now to catch that lightning in a bottle, to go on a run and go into the postseason on a high note? Do they have enough pieces? Assuming they'll probably add, maybe a couple guys here or there, but essentially with its core right now, do they have those guys on this team where they can potentially go on that run?
They can get Peralta back, and he can pitch like he was pitching earlier on. That'll give them three pitchers. You get in the playoffs, and three pitchers, three top studs on the mound take you a long way.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have that much concern about the pitching. Although, someone, like I said before, Boxberger and Ashby and Lauer, and, they've got Devin Williams. He's good. Hopefully Hader is just, this is just a rocky spot for him. But on offense, no. I don't feel they've got any consistency on offense to make a run.
Mm-hmm.
Just can't do it.
Yeah.
I like them to prove me wrong, come out and go gangbusters in these next few series, because this is big time schedule right now. Because, you got for St. Louis, you got Goldsmith, and you got, who's the third baseman? The kid they got at third base. Those two guys can hit anywhere, anytime. And then they got some other guys that are helpful. But those two guys are dependable. I mean, Goldsmith batted cleanup in the All-Star game. He's a leading candidate for MVP this year. We all know what he does when he plays the Brewers. I mean, Babe Ruth coming back to life, or Mickey Mantle or somebody. He's a destruction against the Brewers. He's unbelievable. But, they've got some guys that they got a solid base there, those two guys. And the Brewers, who's the Brewers? Do we have two solid bases on offense, or solid players on offense that you can say consistently, these guys are going to help get you through? I don't know who they are, if they do.
I think the key word's probably consistent.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have that consistent player. I mean, Adames has had some wonderful games. Urias, Taylor, we've had, but it's not consistent. And if you're going to win a pennant, in the playoffs, that's different. You can get a hot streak, and it's not that many games. But now they've still got 75, 80 games left to play. And this 69. Is where you need how many?
69.
69. Well, this is where you need consistent play of good performance and production. And I don't know if they've got guys that can do that.
I think Christian Yelich, and we talked a little bit about it the other day, but he was answering some questions, Brewers.com, and He was talking about the offense, and I think he hit it on the head. He talked about the lack of execution from them, and he called out saying, when we get bases loaded, we got to figure out ways to get guys at home. When we get guys in scoring position, we've got to figure out ways to move them out, move them around the base pads. And I think we've been saying it for the last couple of years, hasn't it been? It just kind of like move the guys around, get them across, and execute. Execution is the big thing. And
a council, that's what, and I applaud Yelich. I was watching the game here a couple of weeks ago. There was a runner on second, and they had the shift on. He put a bunt down third base line. The guy went to third. He went to first. And the guys in the booth said that was not called by council. That was just something that Yelich did. And, council and a lot of these managers are averse to doing that now. They want to hit the home run. Well, if your team is not a home run hitting team, which I don't consider the Brewers a home run hitting team, especially when you talk about the Yankees or the Dodgers or some of these other teams that can knock it out of the park, put pressure on the defense. And I've said this 1,000 times. You don't put pressure on the defense when you're carrying your bat back to the dugout after you just struck out. You've got to put pressure on the defense. If they're going to switch, if they're going to do these switches, make them pay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the batting coaches don't teach these guys to hit to the opposite field, or they don't want to hit to the opposite field. If it's everything, it's home run and strikeout. That's what we want from you. If that's what they're telling these guys, that's what they got to do. But if you don't have the consistent offensive firepower, you got to do things like Yelich did. Lay that bunt down. He can run like a deer, and he made it to first base without a problem. Got third, and I think they scored about 3 runs that inning. But, that's one thing that the Brewers don't put a lot of excitement on the field when they're on the bases. They just don't. They either hit it out or that's about it. So, and I don't know whether that'll make a difference in the second half. I don't think Council is going to change his ways as far as what he does as far as the offense is concerned. But I think the bottom line is they've got to go out and get somebody or some guys to help them out. I don't know who they are, where they're going to get them, but because there are a lot of other teams that are trying to do the same thing. But I think the Brewers, when you look at the contenders, I think the Brewers are one of the teams that needs help more than others to get to the promised land. A lot of these other teams are pretty solid right now, but the Brewers need help. Do the Cardinals need help? Probably, but again, they've got Goldsmith and was it Arenado that plays third or something?
Yeah, Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, those guys, those are guys you can pretty much count on. But the Brewers, who do the Brewers have that can count on consistently all the time? And that's why they need help. Again, are they going to get held up by some of these other teams? Probably. Hopefully they don't give away, because I just reading a story the other day about some of the players they've got in the minor league system that are really highly thought of by a lot of baseball experts. And, do you trade those guys away like they did Kane a few years ago, send him to Kansas City to get Greinke for a short period of time? I don't know. That's not my pay grade.
Yeah, but that's the question, because it's something that we've brought up how many times. You're getting Corbin Burns cheap. You're getting Brandon Woodruff cheap right now.
Yep.
And it's not going to last forever.
No, and I think, too, you're exactly right. Those two guys can carry a long way, especially if Freddie Peralta can come back. And I don't know what the diagnosis on him is. If he can come back, is expected to come back. If he does come back, is he going to be good? There are always questions, when you're dealing with the human body, the human condition. But I think the Brewers have to get help. Atanasio has to reward the fans with at least the attempt.
Yeah, and I think that's a big question, and I think it would solve or maybe answer some of the questions too in the second half of, like, in terms of needs. Like, if Freddie Peralta they're confident he's coming back, and all signs say that we're reading positive stuff, but like you said, that could change on a dime or something like that. But I mean, if Freddie Peralta comes back, that answers a couple questions. Okay, you can focus on addressing more of the offense. But if he doesn't, if there's some concerns about his availability, I think you have to look at maybe adding more pitching too. I think Freddie Peralta answering that question, and again, they're saying all the right stuff, but that to me is key in the second half, is the return of Freddie Peralta and how he's going to look and how he's going to feel, and if he can be what he was right before he got hurt.
I agree with you 100% because that'll go a long way. And, you get 3 consistent starters out there, and then hopefully some of these other, guys that are coming to the park every day with their suitcase because they don't know if they're going to be there or not. You gotta get some consistent, I don't know, Ashby or Lauer or some of these other spot starters that they have. Every once in a while you can get a good outing out of those guys. That can help a lot. But you got to score runs.
Yep, got to score runs to win, right?
That's for sure. The last time I checked, you don't win if you don't score anything.
How would you assess this Brewers team, or how would you assess a Major League Baseball right now? You can hit us up with some texts, 715-830-1912.
I got to say, I watched the All-Star game and I watched the home run derby, not focused right on it, but it was fun. I enjoyed both of them. I enjoyed watching them hit those home runs. Some of those guys hit them a long way. Some of these guys were out there to have fun. Pete Alonso was like he was going to a funeral. He was focused, and some of these other guys were out there. But that kid from Seattle, 32 or something like that in the first round,
yeah,
that's unbelievable. So that was fun, and to see that, and the All-Star game itself, after the first inning, it was kind of a dud of a game as far as the pitching really dominated after that. But this guy from the Dodgers that they say is going to be the Cy Young Award winner, they lit him up for 3 runs right away in that when the American League went ahead. So, and you look at it in the All-Star game and just how things have changed. I grew up watching guys like Pete Rose, and these guys played that All-Star game seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, and these guys nowadays are having a lot of fun, and which is fine. It's an All-Star game, this, that, and everything. But do we care if we win? I don't think they really care enough if they win. But boy, back in the day, Pete Rose and Aaron and Mays, and you had some of those old Brooklyn Dodgers, Don Newcomb and Gil Hodges. I mean, I think of all those guys, Warren Spahn from the Braves. They were there to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
Those starting pitchers pitched 3 innings, not one and done. They pitched 3 innings. And they were there to win the All-Star game. That's one of the differences that I noticed, and anybody that's been around long enough will notice the same thing. It's changed because...
Was it very much an NL versus AL,
absolutely.
Was it like,
absolutely.
Hey, we take this serious, we're in the, you know what I'm trying to get at there a little bit?
At Pete Rose and Ray Fosse, if it was much competition. That was probably over the top what Pete Rose did, but just shows you the level of competition. But back then too, the money those guys were making, you make the All-Star team and it's $100,000 bonus. You make the All-Star team and it's $50,000 bonus. That was a lot of money back then for those guys when they weren't making that kind of money. And so, all the accoutrements, so to speak, that are along with the game have changed. These contracts, Soto's going to get a contract for $400 or $500 million.
Well, he turned down 440 somewhere.
Yeah. So what's $50 or $100,000 to make the All-Star team? They don't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
But back then it was, and that's one of the things that when I was competitive when I played. I played to win, played fair and honest and all that sort of stuff. Well, I played hard to win, and you don't see that nowadays in these, some of them, but not a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to put on a show, which it has turned into a show. I'll grant you that, to get viewers. Because a lot of back then people enjoyed the competition of the best players in the game against each other. And now it's not like that. Is it better? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
How the ratings show up, but I'm not saying it's better or worse than back then. I'm just saying it's different because they played to win that game. Now the American League is way ahead. For a while there, the National League won like 15 out of 16 back in that day. So it's a different model that they've got now.
Yeah, it's American League. Last time National League one was in 2012.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
And then even like 2010, 11, 12 National League won, but then American League went on a run from 1997 to 2009 where they won all of them except the infamous tie at Miller Park in the middle there. But
when's it coming back to Miller Park? I wonder.
Well, never. Maybe AmFam Field.
Or AmFam Field, thank you.
I have no idea. They got it seems like every couple of years there's a new stadium, so they got to.
Well, that's true. Well, I don't know. And that's interesting too, because it was speaking of stadiums, at the All-Star game, Rob Manfred talked about Oakland.
Yeah, it's
not sustainable. Not sustainable. Oakland's going to lose that team too. They lost the Raiders already. The Warriors went from Oakland to now a facility in San Francisco. They're not going to have the Oakland Raiders very long either if
Oakland
they don't
A's,
pay attention.
Next year it's at Seattle. Doesn't have a location for 24, 25, and 26. It'll be at in Philly.
That stadium in Seattle is a beautiful stadium. It's really neat. It's really neat.
You've been there?
Yeah. You'll walk in kind of at field level, and it's just it's a nice stadium right next to the football stadium. They really did a nice job in Seattle putting those two together. So that'll be a nice place to have it.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure they'll do something for Griffey over there, especially if they got this young kid still there. And
I wonder Griffey and Rodriguez, A-Rod.
Maybe,
he came in as those two guys were pretty
Randy Johnson-esque in there. Maybe they'll do something with that mid-90s team and Jay Buhner over there.
Yeah, there's a lot of great players who've gone through, and what's his name, the Hall of Fame designated
Ichiro is over, or Edgar
Martinez. Yeah, so they've had a lot of great baseball players go through Seattle, and it looks like it got another one coming up.
Yep.
Well, they won 14 in a row now, going back to the start of the second half.
Yep. So watch out for the Mariners.
You bet. They're not done yet.
Nope. Hey, Baltimore, don't count them out either, man.
Well, they got a streak too, don't they?
They did, but they're I don't know if they're still 500 right now, but they did get to 500 at one.
Good to see.
Check that out.
Good to see.
Especially in that division.
Yeah.
All right, we got to take a quick break. Really quick one, then we'll be back to finish up the first hour. We might only have about a couple minutes there. But then we're going to talk some training camp, talk a little football coming up in the next hour. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. I know it's summer and the last just a couple minutes to the top. So I'll tell you what, coming up next hour, we'll chat a little green and gold, getting ready for training camp, setting to start. Less than a week, first practice. Rookies report tomorrow. Veterans will report on the 26th, but the first practice coming up on the 27th. Packers also bringing in some veterans for some tryouts. They got one spot open. Can they or will they fill that up before their first practice on the 27th? But who, like, if you were coming to training camp, maybe you are going to training camp, but if you were coming to training camp, who or what position group would you be most interested in watching or taking a look at? We'll hit that up coming up in the next hour since we only have a couple minutes. But also a reminder too, 8:00, our good friend Mr. Jake Bulks, DNR Warren, will be joining us answering your questions. So last call if you have any questions that you want us to pass along. Text those babies on over to us, 715-830-1912. Kind of weird to say, but we've got, August is a big time for hunting, tags, and all that good stuff. So
I see not long ago they announced 3 winners of the elk hunt in Wisconsin, and one from Hudson and one from two out of the 3 from our area here.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't one of them.
No. Did you apply?
I did.
But and then they said they've got some more.
They got a raffle with the Rocky Mountain Elk.
Yeah, they got about 8 more, and then the Ojibwa tribe gets 4, and the Rocky Mountain Elk gets 1, and there's still some other ways to get them. But 2 out of the 3 that were announced were from our area, so that'll be neat.
Yeah, maybe one of these days I'll get it.
Evidently, the herd's in good shape if they figure they can shoot 8 buck, 8 out of that herd.
Yeah, we'll have to ask them about the bears. I know we remember the bear situation.
Yeah, the bears are all
the
over
Medford
the place.
one. Yeah,
that's right. Got in somebody's house.
Yeah.
Well,
I
you got to be
know,
careful because I'll tell you, these bears, they get pretty comfortable around humans and around dogs and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, be careful.
I've gotten quite a bit on my trail cams, more so this year at this point of bear action than I've had in the last few years.
Yeah, well, more and more people are moving out in the woods, building a home, and they think, oh, it's beautiful out here. Be careful. There are other things you got to worry about.
Like Bigfoot, too.
Yeah, right.
All right, 1 hour in. We got 2 more to go. We'll kick off the next hour with a little sports nuggets of the day. Stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
WAYY Eau Claire.
Who are you toasting? Who do you want to give a shout out to? Text, tweet, Facebook, those babies on over, okay? Who are you toasting here? Appreciate you tuning in wherever you're tuning in and however you're tuning in. Anybody going? I wanted to ask this too. Anybody going to the soccer game at Lambeau Field this weekend? Going, Bob? Gonna go check out? No, I know you're not. So.
Yeah, I'm going today, and I'm going to camp right out so I don't miss a minute.
I'm just curious. Anybody bought tickets?
I'm sure there'll be a lot of
so,
people. It'll be full, I'm sure.
Kind of curious to see how that's going to go. So
I'm sure it'll go well.
Yeah, but yeah, that's
a great venue for it.
That's this Saturday. Hopefully it doesn't rain and tear up that field though. Don't tear up Lambeau for me.
Oh boy, wouldn't that be something?
Don't do that. Got to be pristine for preseason games, baby.
Oh, that preseason, that's
why we only got one at home, so we got to make it look good for preseason.
But I assume that who is playing, Munich or Bayern Munich, or who's playing? I don't know, but I'm sure it'll be a full house. A lot of soccer fans and getting to be more and more all the time, and that's wonderful.
Manchester City, and Barron. Is that how you say it, Barron over there? So
close enough for me.
Yeah. Let's. So I think we'll probably see some Packer players there too.
I'm sure they will be.
I know Aaron's a big soccer fan, so we'll see if he's going to show up early.
Did he buy part of a team or something?
Oh, he Bucks, but not soccer.
Okay. Yeah. I know he was in the Bucks, but I thought he was getting involved in soccer.
I know he's a big fan of it.
Some girlfriend or somebody who likes soccer. So
of his many that he's had over the years. Let's kick off this second hour. We're doing some sports nuggets of the day. Not a whole lot here. 1957, Althea Gibson became the first black woman to win a major U.S. tennis title when she won the women's national clay court singles competition.
A woman athlete that gets very little credit for as great as she was at so many things: track and field, tennis, golf. Mm-hmm. She was really a multi-sport athlete at the top level.
This puts you in maybe kind of ages you a little bit. 1968, Arnold Palmer became the first golfer to make $1 million in career earnings after he tied for second place at the PGA Championship. 1968, first golfer to eclipse 1 million. And now you can finish last place at the Live Tour and get that in probably two starts.
Yeah, well, don't bring that. I mean, that to me is an abomination. But $1 million back then was a lot different than $1 million now.
Yep. 2006, Alex Rodriguez collected his 2,000th career hit and became the youngest player to reach the 450 home run mark. 2006. Those are just some of your sports nuggets of the day. Although today, 1 year, maybe a lot of you were hungover because we're celebrating the Bucks championship the night prior. So still kind of seems like it's been a while now, a little bit longer than a year at this point, but that's trying to catch up to all the COVID delays and that.
Yeah, and they were right there last year. Just, Chris Middleton not being there made a big difference. So I think they'll be back again.
Mm-hmm. James Harden, if you're kind of see it, signed a 2-year, $68.6 million deal. It's essentially a 1-year deal and then a player option for the second. So to stay with the 76ers. But
76ers signed P.J. Tucker. That's going to make a lot of difference. And I did not want to see him stay in the East if the Bucks weren't going to sign him. He's a difference maker. He is.
So that was part of the James Harden opting out and creating some more money for the 76ers to bring in a guy like PJ Tucker. So other than that, it's like everybody's still freaking out about Kevin Durant and Kyrie and the Lakers and what's all going to happen there. Russell Westbrook. I could give two, what about that?
I was just going to say, they better be careful because you just said it and I was thinking of it, how to say it. They could really damage the image of the NBA. I mean, the Bucks and I think some other teams, Dallas, they've got their players, are keeping their players. They're not getting into this babying the superstars. And that's basically what it is. Mm-hmm. Kyrie Irving, and you've got Kevin Durant, and you've got LeBron babying these superstars. And to me, I think they're doing more damage to the game than they are good. And I hope Brooklyn ownership sticks to their guns and say, you sign contracts with us, you're going to play with us, because they're never going to get. For Kevin Durant, what kind of a trade could you make that would bring back the kind of talent that would make up for him? I mean, he's one guy, so we got to trade for 6 guys and 10 draft choices.
Right.
I mean, and still you're not going to get that kind of production because that's one guy. And then you got to bring in all these other guys to try and make up for that. You saw with the Bucks, what happened to the Bucks years ago when Kareem went to LA and they got 9 players and draft choices. You're not going to make up for those kind of players. And it's just, the Bucks were handcuffed. They didn't have any choice. But the Nets, I think they've got a choice. And I would think that the Los Angeles Lakers management, Jerry Buss, if he was still around, would never put up with this. But his daughter, Jeannie, and the rest of them, I don't think they really know what in the world they're doing.
Or even if Jerry West was still there.
Yeah.
Running the show, running the front office.
If he had the power to run the show, being there and having the power are 2 different things. But I think they're potentially seriously damaging the NBA brand.
I know, like Jenny Buss made a tweet, something. A lot of people thought it was taking a shot at LeBron because she was talking about Kobe and how Kobe always put the team first and that, and everybody just assumed that it was a shot at LeBron, and she kind of denied that. But I mean, that's kind of, we're 2022, and that's how it seems like management or people vent their frustrations towards another person, is putting it out on social media, instead of like doing something about it or fixing it or talking and, person to person. Let's put it out to social media so we can start more drama.
Yeah, and you look at LeBron, and again, talented as any player that's ever been in the game, probably. But again, you look at him, and how many times has he played for a team rather than himself? When he went back to Cleveland and got them a title, he went back and played with a team in Cleveland to win a title, and then he left. And it's all about LeBron. It always was. When, he went to Miami, then he came back and won a title for Cleveland and went to LA. I mean, and he's got bigger interest in LA. He wants to get into the movies, wants to get into show business, and he's in that already. And I mean, he's a billionaire with all his other outside activities. But it's all about LeBron first. You can never convince me that he's a team player. Just that one time in Cleveland.
Yeah, and Kyrie was there, and I think they acquired Kevin Love after LeBron got there, right? Yeah, because that was the Wiggins trade.
Because he was at Minnesota.
Yeah, it was the Wiggins trade. That's right. So, yeah, because he signed, then they drafted Wiggins, but then Wiggins never even played for Cleveland.
Wiggins was
so
the first player taken.
The Jabari Parker one.
LeBron doesn't like playing with the younger players. He wanted older players, veteran players. But you'll never convince me that LeBron is a team player. Outside of that run with Cleveland when they won the title, and then he left again. I did what I said I would do, bring Cleveland a title, and then he left.
Before I get into some football chat here, I wanted to ask you this, but ESPN's got the Derek Jeter series that's airing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've caught any
off
of it.
And on, I haven't caught much of it.
And it's always kind of, whenever people talk about Derek Jeter, one of the things that gets brought up is he overrated? Is it because he played for the Yankees? Was he ever, considered the greatest at his spot at any given point in time in his career? He never won an MVP. What's your viewpoint on Jeter? I kind of almost compare him to like Tom Brady, where he stuck around a while, won a lot of championships, was a good player. Brady doesn't have the most MVPs. He's got a couple, but he played for.
But he is a leader.
He's yep, exactly. So how do you view Jeter?
That's a good way, just like Brady. I mean, you want him on your team. He knows how to win. I mean, he was one of those guys that I like to watch because he didn't look at the manager. Look at, what am I supposed to do? I mean, that play that he made in the World Series where he ran across the infield and picked the ball up on the first base line and threw it to the catcher and tagged the guy out. That's an instinctive player. That's a guy that knows the game. And I admire him for that. I think it was great. I think he was a great player. Was he anywhere near the GOAT at shortstop? Absolutely not. But I'll give him credit. He played hard, he played consistent, and he played consistently great. He was a major reason the Yankees were champions.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the lists again the other day, and there's a lot of the guys that he was about 5th or 6th on the list of top shortstops of all time, depending on which one you were looking at. But average was like 5, 6, maybe 7. And it was interesting because a lot of the guys that were ahead of him was like Alex Rodriguez, Cal Ripken Jr., Ernie Banks. But the one common thing with a lot of those guys, too, was that they ended up moving to a different position later on in their career, where Jeter played shortstop throughout his whole career. And the A-Rod essence was because, well, Jeter was there and, he moved to third. But then Cal moved to third. Ernie went to first base for a little bit there, too. So, but Jeter always stuck at short for that long career.
That's a tough position to play later in your career because you got to be a gymnast, an athlete, acrobat.
Ozzie Smith is the perfect example.
Exactly. I mean, Derek Jeter was great. There's no question about it. He was a winner. He was great. He was a leader. And like I said, I always enjoy watching guys that can feel the game, whether it be a defensive back that, well, this is the guy I'm supposed to cover, but I see this play is going to go to the sidelines. So they'll go and make that play. It's not what the play was called, but I always admire and respect guys that can play outside the box, so to speak. And Jeter was one of those guys that saw what was going on in the game and saw what needed to be done, and he went and did it. He didn't wait for somebody to move him to a certain position or whatever. He was one of those guys, and I always enjoy watching those kind of guys.
Since you're a baseball aficionado, one question I threw out yesterday, I'd be curious to get your response here too. So how I phrased it was, if you had to pick 5 people, it doesn't have to be players, it can be players, coaches, managers, executives, commissioners, whatever, but 5 people, like say a little kid came up to you and said, Mr. Bob, tell me the history about baseball.
Oh, wow.
Who would be the 5 people that you would say, you know what, you can't tell the history of baseball without?
Well, Babe Ruth obviously would be right at the top. I think the early commissioner, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, would be one.
Jackie?
Well, Jackie Robinson, you have to have him in there for what he did to integrate the game.
And like one question too is like, do you put a steroid era person in, or like a Bonds?
No, I don't. But and like it or not, who really changed the game? George Steinbrenner. When he came in, he bought the Yankees for $10 million.
Yeah.
And then he said, we're going to make New York a winner. And he did. He put his money where his mouth is. He changed the game. And I think you might have to go back to Curt Flood. Curt Flood was a guy that got free agency.
Yeah.
So those would be probably 5
those are good ones right there.
5 guys that I would put in there.
Yeah.
And they're great, over great players. Henry Aaron was a great player. Willie Mays is a great player. But I mean, for changing the game and,
or telling the history of it. Yeah.
Curt Flood back in the, early mid 60s when he got free agency, that changed the game completely. And so I think you got to put him in there too.
Good picks right there.
So
right off the top of your head too. Look at you. Sharp as a tack. I like that. I like that one. Yeah. Babe Ruth and Jackie were the popular ones for sure. Kind of the majority on there, but we mentioned
Kennesaw
Landis.
Mountain Landis was one of the early commissioners that
first one.
But he got the game going in the right direction. He understood that it was a people's game. And, there are probably other very influential people, but those would be 5 that would be right at the top of my list, just off the cuff like this.
Because he came in right after the Black Sox scandal. Oh, but yeah, that was kind of interesting. We kind of did it for all the other sports too, and like football, and that was an interesting one too.
But I don't think a lot of people give Curt Flood
nobody mentioned him yesterday. That's
credit or whatever, but when he got free agency, he changed it.
That's a good one. Look at you. I like that. All right, so we got to take a quick break here. Then coming up, Packers training camp, less than a week away. Rookies report tomorrow. The veterans report to 26th. First practice is on the 27th. If you were heading over to practice and you were going to be standing in line and waiting to get in the stands, or maybe peering through the fences over there, who would be like the player? Maybe it's a new player, rookie, free agent, whatever, or position group that you're most interested in at the beginning of training camp? Packers also bringing in some veterans for a workout yesterday, including wide receiver John Brown. Packers do have one roster spot open. Will they fill that before training camp? That's the question.
And did you see some of these teams? They just don't wait. Did you see what Tampa Bay did? Because they don't have a tight end with
Kyle Rudolph.
They didn't waste any time. They went and got him. Is he going to be a 10-year player? No, but he might be for 1 or 2 years what Brady needs.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we'll take a quick break here, and then I want to hear from you. So start hitting us up with some text, 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. A little football chat coming up after these quick words.
You're listening to The Dan Kasper Show.
A clinic developed to offer the highest quality orthopedic care, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine has been committed to the healthcare needs of patients in Wisconsin for over 45 years. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine's reputation can be attributed to the teamwork of their friendly and knowledgeable physicians and staff. They are dedicated to providing each patient with exceptional attention and service. Start living a pain-free, healthier life with Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Visit cvosm.com for more information. Anyone ever tell you it's so bright in here, I gotta wear shades?
I love all these windows, but on a sunny day, you've got to wear shades inside.
So why not call Auto Trim of Eau Claire?
Auto Trim? They do tinting for vehicles?
And homes and businesses.
Really?
Whether for heat or glare, Auto Trim in Eau Claire can fix it.
You should see how hot it gets in here during the summer.
Auto Trim on Melby Street in Eau Claire can help you. Call for an estimate today. If you've got heat or glare, call Auto Trim of Eau Claire.
Service Master of Chippewa Valley is your local expert when it comes to fire and water damage, carpet and air duct cleaning, mold remediation, and trauma. They're when you need them 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Trust comes in the yellow truck. Learn more at ServiceMasterChippewaValley.com.
Your favorite golf outing is back. The second annual Casper Classic, benefiting Backyard Dreams, will be happening on August 26th at Princeton Valley Golf Course in Eau Claire. For just players have been trickling in all across the league to begin training camp. Raiders had everybody coming in the other day. A lot of teams, just their rookies are starting to come in, including Green Bay's rookies reporting tomorrow. Veterans at 26. First practice will be the 27th. So believe it or not, football is right around the corner.
I think the Raiders are getting more attention right now than anybody.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, you watch some of the programs, these NFL programs, and Raiders, Devontae Adams coming in. What's it going to mean for Hunter Renfrow and his catching? And can Carr play at that high a level with that kind of receiving core? And on it goes. But I think the Raiders are getting an awful lot of attention.
Yeah, I was hearing them on the radio a little bit this morning too. So Raiders getting a little bit of an early start because get the Hall of Fame game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, August 6th. Put that on your calendar so you don't miss that.
I wouldn't miss that for the world.
Big time game right now. Well, by the way, if anybody doesn't know, for the speeches on Saturday, Leroy first, so you don't have to wait. You can hear Leroy Butler's speech first.
Good for him. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. So he'll go first. You can watch it, and then boom, you're done for the day. You don't have to watch it unless you want to watch everybody else's. But Packers fans might.
Who's going to introduce him? Did they say? Is he
Gilbert Brown? Is
he?
Yeah. Yep, Gilbert Brown was on there. That was pretty cool. The Gravedigger. I think it's a co. I think it might be his wife and Gilbert, but I know Gilbert is for sure doing it too. So
good for Gilbert. Cool. He's still a much loved former Packer.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and he gets around. He gets around the state.
He is speaking around. He is round.
So with training camp opening up here in just a couple of days here, if you were going to practice, what would be the first thing that you're paying attention to, or the first person or the first position group that you would be watching?
Well, I know the popular answer is wide receivers, but for me, I'm going to be watching these defensive rookies that were drafted. I want to see really how fast they are and, how they fit in to the defensive scheme of things, because I think that's where this team can really make a difference if these guys are bona fide NFL players and bona fide NFL starters.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can make a big difference.
So I'm actually going down to practice the first record. Yep.
Good.
Saying I'm going a different route. When they come out of the Don Hudson Center, first person or first two people I'm going to be looking for is where's David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins if they're suited up, especially David Bakhtiari. That was going
to be my second one, was the offensive line.
Yep. The big one there is I want to see if Bakhtiari's suited up and he's going to practice. If he's not, big time worried about that position then, and big time worried about David Bakhtiari's future.
Really and truly, because they've got a lot invested in him, and there's quarterback and the left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You got two good guys there, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah,
but
you don't have to worry about the blind side over there.
Yeah, that's right. And so if he can get back, I don't know what the latest medical report on Bakhtiari is. It's been awful quiet all winter, all spring, all summer so far. Hopefully he can come back. I don't know. It's necessary for the Packers to be a good team to have him playing more than 4 or 5 games. He's got to play a good share of games.
Yeah, so I'm going to look at him, and even like with those other couple guys, just to kind of see if where they're at in their process. That's Elton Jenkins and Big Bobby Tunyon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they'll be cleared to go right away, but just to kind of see what they're doing. I remember a couple of years ago when I went down there for the first practice, I think it was Brian Balaga who was recovering from an ACL. Nobody expected him to be doing anything, and he was out there the first day doing stuff and kind of surprised a lot of people. He snuck out and was doing some stuff off to the side, but you could see all the writers like running down there and taking pictures of him. So
Bakhtiari, we're going on 2 years.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
that's why if he's not out there, I know it's day one, but still it's like, okay, there's something going on.
He and Aaron Rodgers are really good buddies, and I know he'd like to play, obviously, but if he can't, he can't. I mean, you got to move on.
Mm-hmm. And then, if he's not there and Elton Jenkins isn't ready, you've got a big question mark at left tackle to open up the season. Who is that going to be? I've it's maybe it's not somebody on the team right
I
now.
was
I
going to
don't
say,
know.
whoever it is not on the roster right now.
It's just that to me is the big one there.
Yeah, and and as training camp goes on, you always get at least a handful of shocking or surprising cuts by teams across the league. And will some of them be offensive linemen? They usually are. But is there a reason? You hope it's something like a personality conflict between the coach and the player or something like that and not an injury. So maybe there's some guys you can pick up. But it always happens. You can't panic now because there are always some surprising cuts at every position. And, a lot of them are always higher paid guys. But hopefully Bakhtiari is healthy. You can't say 100%, never going to be 100%, but is he going to be 85? Is he going to be 90? I think if you got that, you'd have to be more than happy.
Yeah. So that, and as you mentioned, the receivers, Christian Watson, finally signing his deal the other day there too. So he's not in jeopardy of missing any training camp. I mean, dude, couldn't miss any time with Aaron Rodgers. That would just be detrimental.
Oh no, they need to have these guys in. That's the bottom line.
So I'll be curious. Yeah, obviously that's the easy one, but just to see how much work they get in with 12 out there too. We know what he's like with obviously Randall and Lazard, but even Sammy Watkins. See how the new guys are added to the flow. But you're right too. I'm interested in the other rookies on that defensive line. I feel like for 2 first-round picks, and I understand it, I get it, but 2 first-round picks, they're not getting talked a whole lot about. Watt and Quay Walker over there. So it's obviously Christian Watson is the big one, and again, I understand it, I get it, but not too often.
I'm watching them.
Yeah, not too often. It's kind of quiet with 2 first-rounders coming in.
And I have to admit that I still can't figure out Davante Adams. I really can't. I don't understand, because how many other times have you heard receivers that, well, I want to play with a guy I played with in college. I want to, he's not from Las Vegas. He's from someplace in California or whatever. I still don't understand that move by Davante Adams. I really don't. I don't understand it. There seems to me there's got to be something else that we have never heard about and probably never will. I don't know if he hated Green Bay. I don't know. I have no idea, but it just seems to me that it's still not logical what happened between the Packers and Davante Adams. Have you? I mean, it's over. He's a Raider, so I mean that part of it. But it's still, every time I see him, I just think, what is the real story here?
Yeah,
I just don't think we've got it.
Some of his comments that he said, part of it was the unknown future of Aaron, like how long he was going to stick around. Did he want to hitch his wagon to a team? And maybe Aaron was only going to play 1 more year. And we'd all think that's a shot at Jordan, even though he said it's not a shot at Jordan Love. But let's face it, when you kind of say I don't know how long Aaron was going to be there, it's kind of a shot at Jordan a little bit.
There's no question.
It's an unknown factor with Love. You mentioned,
is it an unknown factor or the fact that he's been on the field with him, and you catch passes from Aaron Rodgers, the back shoulder fade or whatever, he can't throw the pass.
Mm-hmm. I remember going to that watching that Kansas City game, and there was a couple of plays and I know I make fun of this sometimes, but in this case I noticed that the body language of Davante playing with Jordan Love. There was a couple of instances with that camera angle when they caught it, like, ooh, that didn't look, just kind of like, I don't want to say moping around, but it kind of was like, head down, frustration sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think you might have hit it on the head that he just wasn't sure about Aaron Rodgers, and he knew Jordan Love wasn't going to be the kind of guy that could keep him as a top receiver in the NFL, because he just cannot make those throws.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been around for 3 years now or whatever. And even in the preseason games, the all-important preseason game, well, they are important because it shows that he can't play, because he hasn't shown that he can, for a game, carry it, or even a half, carry a team, move a team down the field consistently, throw the balls that you need to throw on 3rd down, whatever the case may be. So maybe that is the reason that, love to play with Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be around very long. I don't know that, but that might be his thought process. And I would think that's probably, if you listed 5 or 6 reasons why he really wanted to leave Green Bay, I think that probably would be the one that I'd have to make as number one. But I don't know if we've gotten the real story.
And I know he mentioned about raising his family over closer to home, to California and that too. But yeah, those were just the things that I've heard from Devontae.
Yeah, and it's a shame, but
he's not going to come out and say I absolutely hated Green Bay. That's why I didn't want to be there.
He's not going to do that. But,
if that was even the case.
No, I don't know that either. If he didn't like Green Bay, if he liked Green Bay, I don't know. But the bottom line is it's sad when you lose a player in the prime of his career like that.
Mm-hmm. Not too often do you see, receiver 2 leave the talent level of an Aaron Rodgers.
No.
Especially when they turn down more money to still leave.
Yep. That's why I say, is it the Aaron Rodgers uncertainty factor? I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be there for, I don't know, 2-3 more years, 4 years maybe. I don't think he'll ever play for anybody else. And if he does, he's going to take somebody to the cleaners, some owner that's crazy to the cleaners to pay him an ungodly amount of money to finish his career like Brett Favre did. But it still befuddles me to a certain extent about Davante Adams not being in Green Bay.
We'll see but that to me also kind of adds some excitement because there's an unknown factor with this offense this year.
Boy, there certainly is, quote unquote.
It's like, okay, Aaron, let's see if you're the dude. Let's see. We know you're a dude, but now this is more pressure on your shoulders. And it's more pressure on Matt LaFleur as a play caller.
I was just going to say that Matt LaFleur was not only play caller, but the concept of the offense. Does this mean the running backs are going to be more of a part of this offense? And how can he get the running backs involved in the game like a team like San Francisco does with Deebo Samuel and Tyreek Hill for the most part was split out, but there were times where he came out of the backfield. Can Matt LaFleur design an offense that maybe both of our running backs are going to be on the field at the same time? That might be something that we'll see as well, but it's not. I don't think the pressure is all on Aaron Rodgers by any means. I think it's at least 50-50 with Matt LaFleur and his offensive coordinators. They got Hackett back. Is he back coming? Who's the guy coming back?
Tom Clements.
Tom Clements, thank you. Coming back to work with Aaron Rodgers. I think, this is going to be a 3 or 4-headed offensive leadership that's going to have a lot of responsibility to come up with an offense that's going to work without Davante Adams and some, Jordy Nelson's been gone, but they don't have that caliber of a wide receiver, at least right now, unless somebody shows up in training camp and really turns our head. But I think the pressure is going to be on the design of the offense, not the execute. I mean, the execution is there, but I think it's going to be more on the design right now than the execution of the offense.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got to take a quick break so we can play a little receive or defer. So let's do that. And then reminder, just past 8 o'clock, we'll catch up with our good friend, Mr. Jake Folks, DNR Warden, answering your questions
The Dan
after 8 o'clock.
Kasper Show will be right back after these words.
About 14 minutes to the top of the hour here this morning. Do you have any receiver defers? Did you make a list over
You
there, big
bet
boy?
I do.
Attaboy. Look at you.
Receive or defer. Juan Soto deserves a bigger contract than Aaron Judge.
Receive.
I will too.
I will receive that. And the big factor to me is the age part.
The age part, and I think batting from the left side, and I just think he gives you much more. Aaron, I'm not taking anything away from Aaron Judge. I think he's, wonderful player. But I just think if I was going to, what did you say earlier he turned down?
It was like $440 million, 15 years, $440 million.
Receiver defer. Does anybody deserve that kind of money to play a game? But really and truly, I think if I had my choice to sign somebody to $400 million plus contract, it would be Juan Soto would be my first choice.
He's
of
20,
this current crop.
Yeah, he's like 23, but he's already been in the league for 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
And the game, and he showed in the World Series when he was 2021. The play isn't too big for him.
Mm-hmm.
The scene isn't too big for him.
As a 23-year-old at one point in my life, turning down $440 million would have been like, you're nuts. But at the same time, I mean, that's where it's like, is it fair to say, like, if you would have committed 15 years to $440 million, is it fair to say maybe in like a couple years, few years, it would have been like, well, he's getting underpaid because you divide it 440 by 15. It's like, well, that's under 30 million,
And you look at this for Soto or Judge, and they're going to get a tremendous contract. There's no question about it. And then the debate that was brought, and I think it was a good thing to bring up at the All-Star game, was the way minor leaguers are paid.
Yeah. Rob Manfred stuck his foot in his mouth again.
I think so too. I think he didn't handle that thing very well at all. Yeah, they're giving some housing. I don't know what the housing is, whether it's 4 guys in a 2-bedroom apartment or how they, some dorm someplace. But I think for what they bring to their communities, these minor league players. I mean, we watch the Northwest League, and you watch how many guys have come here, and granted they're staying at family, but they're in college yet. And, I don't know if any of them got name, image, and likeness. All you hear about that is football and basketball. But what about baseball? Because there are some of these colleges that baseball is a big, big, big time sport. And so, but I think it was a good topic to bring up. And if we were receiver defer, the minor leaguers are being taken advantage of by Major League Baseball, I'd say receive. I just think they're making so much money. And, they don't pay their minor league, I don't think, anywhere near. Because a lot of them have families, and granted, they're trying to make it into the big leagues, and it's, is it a dream, a fantasy for some? I don't know, how you want to describe it, but for the kids that are, they're playing, their heart's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the owners need to step it up a little bit. But that's, we talk about contracts, how far you are from $440 million turned down to the guy making $290 a week.
No. Yep.
It's a long stretch, that's for sure.
Yeah. Man, 23 though. What would you imagine getting $440 million contract at the age of 23?
Oh my goodness. Unbelievable. But like you said, 5, 6, 7 years, they'll say, well, they got him at a bargain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whoever's going to get him, I don't know. Receiver defer. The Packers need to bring in kickers to challenge Mason Crosby.
Well, they got a couple in right now.
Yeah.
But
I think they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and part of me just wondering it too, is it just to save his leg in training camp? The fatigue part of it all too. But, bring him in, see what you got. Maybe stash one on the practice squad.
Yeah, you might want to do that, but he is getting up there. There's a lot of wear on that leg, and you look at his head of hair, and it's starting to look more like mine every day.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Now, and Aaron's older, but he's going a little younger with the man bun and all that.
Well, you
should do that.
Oh yeah, but does Aaron color it? One of these deals.
Oh boy, don't start that.
Oh, I don't know.
Colorgate.
I could care less if he does or not. I just, but Mason Crosby is definitely, he's a veteran.
Well,
let's just say, if I'm looking at his hair, you can tell he's a veteran.
Look at that special teams unit he had to be a part of last year. A lot of those grays probably came from that, not knowing the.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of help am I going to get here?
Yeah. Am I going to get it blocked on this one? Am I going to get any protection? So
receiver defer. special teams should be an area that we watch closely. We mentioned receivers, we mentioned offensive line, we mentioned some of these new defensive rookies, but receiver defer, the special teams should get as much attention in training camp as any of the other units on this Packer squad.
I'll say receive, and that's where, like, when it comes to like preseason, I'll be okay if they punted a few extra times just to see them.
Good point. Yeah. 3rd and inches punted, 4th and inches punted.
Punt it.
Let's see if these guys can cover.
Yep.
Who wants to stick their nose in there?
Yep. That's I'll be fine with that a few times.
And we got a punter. Do we have a punter?
Pat O'Donnell from the Bears. Yep, he's a veteran.
Okay.
That came over.
He's not the guy that got it blocked against the 49ers.
From Green Bay last year?
Yeah.
No. Bojo's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Nope. They went with a veteran punter this time. They signed him as a free agent.
Okay, good.
He's been living. I don't know if he still is, but he was living with Mason during the OTAs and mini camps.
Oh, was it? Good for him.
Yep.
Good for him. But I think, too, that the special teams, and that's another thing. Can Crosby kick it in the end zone from the 35-yard line enough on these kickoffs where you don't have to worry about your coverage team? That's, do you have a special leg that can kick it off? Because any kind of a breeze, he's not reaching the end zone if it's in his face. In his back, yeah. But, and that's part of the problem. A lot of these teams have kickers that kick it out of the back of the end zone. They don't run them back. So, there's a lot of parts that have to mesh on these special teams to make them work.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see, if that's something that is prevalent right away at the beginning of the season. A lot of just kicks in the back of the end zone. Maybe it was a philosophy with prior special teams coordinator. It'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays out right away. Maybe it was, I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
But I agree with you. I hope they, punt a few extra times on purpose just to find some guys that want to cover and can cover and are smart enough to know how to cover, because you got to have lane integrity. You can't be a hero.
I almost want them to have not sky high punch so they fair catch it either. Just put the line drive so they have to return it so they get some practice there.
Yeah, we'll see what their philosophy is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right. Let's go with. Do you have any more?
No, that's it right now.
Okay, I'll go back to Juan Soto. Receiver defer. If the Brewer, would you be okay if the Brewers rented Juan Soto for the rest of this season, knowing that they'd have to give up a lot, kind of like a CC Sabathia thing?
No, I wouldn't.
No,
because I don't know who I don't know who Washington would want on this roster that's on the Major League roster. Would they want too many of our great young players? Because I think we've got some great young players in the system.
Would you package Josh Hader with that? Would you be willing to do that?
I would.
Mm-hmm.
I would at this point. I think, if they put Josh Hader would take a big chunk of that trade. No, and I don't know what they've got for closers in Washington, but I would be willing for a bat like that. Absolutely.
Perhaps would he make the difference? Like instantly, all right, catapult the Brewers to World Series contender?
Oh, I think without a question.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, anyway, I just think the kid's that good. Because, if they're going to pitch around him, that means other guys are going to see some awfully good pitches. Yeah. And I think, Urias and Adames and Tellez, some of these, even Peterson and Rosas, whatever his name is. And, I think some of these guys, Renfro, I think there's some guys there that just need a leader. And I think at 23 years old, this kid's younger than all of them, but I think he can be the leader because I think they'll pitch around him. They would pitch around him to get to some of these other guys who would see some awfully good pitches.
Mm-hmm. Receiver defer, we're going to the college football world on this one, 24/7 Sports. They put out their polls to see who the favorites or who the media, their staff was voting for preseason predictions. No big surprise, Ohio State coming out of the Eastern Division with 14 first-place votes, 98 voting points, Michigan second, Penn State third, Michigan State fourth. Where have we heard that before? In the West, they do have Wisconsin pretty heavily, finishing first, 12 first-place votes, 94 points. Iowa comes in at second, 20 points back at 74. Minnesota's in third, and they actually got the other two first-place votes, but 65 points overall. Receive or defer This is a crucial season for Paul Chryst as head coach for the Badgers.
And Graham Mertz is the quarterback, but I agree with you. I think, I don't know if he went into the portal enough to get wide receivers to help Mertz. I was disappointed Cormac Sampson has decided to quit football because I think he would have played a lot of football this year. Now, I don't know if he's got nagging injuries or he's frustrated with the program because, he got moved around a lot down there. But I think they found him a home as an offensive lineman. So I'm disappointed that Cormac Sampson left to coach at Sun Prairie down there. But I agree with you. I think this is a pivotal season, especially, is he or is he not Jimmy Leonard looking over his shoulder? I don't know. If Jimmy Leonard has talked to the new athletic director and said, I'd like a shot as a head coach. And, I don't think they want to lose Jimmy Leonard.
No.
Jimmy Leonard, receiver to fur, as far as coaches are concerned of that football program, is Jimmy Leonard more important than Paul Chryst in the eyes of the hierarchy in Madison? I don't know the answer to that. I just, proposed that question out there. I don't know.
Oh,
and
that's a good one.
So it's something to think about. But I think Graham Mertz, and I think Paul Chryst saw last year that the way the offense was being run, the way the offense was being called, it was not cohesive at all. It was didn't seem coordinated. If you get out and watch those games, it just didn't flow. And I think, and he's supposedly calling these plays, but you watch him on the sidelines and he's standing off to the side. And I don't know if he was really calling the plays, if he was sending them up and they were being sent down from the press box down to Mertz. I don't know how it all worked. I really don't. But I know it didn't work really well. They had a nice season, but it didn't seem to flow real smoothly. Now, I don't know if that's Mertz not being able to carry it out because he is a guy that has, when he started, what's his name, whoever, Cone was playing, and then Cone kind of got hurt, and Mertz came in there, and he looked really good. I mean, footwork he's just digressed since the time he started as a freshman. This is a huge, huge year for Graham Mertz.
I would agree. Absolutely. I 100% would agree with Mertz. And then be curious to see how Braylon Allen looks this year in year 2. He's now 18. You can't call him a kid anymore.
Yeah. And he's got, and the thing is, there are a couple kids behind him. I think they could have a very potent running game again and take some of it, the offense. That's why I was sorry to see Cormac Sampson leave the Badger team, because I don't know how good this offensive line is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And, who's going to play tight end now that Ferguson is gone? And, they got some holes to fill, but I think potentially, Braylon, he's going to be a star. Obviously, he already is for that matter. But I think got some guys behind him that give him a rest. But who have we got for other threats? Or are they going to pack the box with 8, 9 guys in the box because we don't fear Mertz as a passer? And you looked at the offensive wide receivers they had last year, and everybody said, well, they got guys in the box. Why don't they throw it? Because these other teams had defensive backs that were better than our offensive receivers. They could guard them one-on-one. You did not have to double team our wide receivers. That made a big difference last year.
Yep.
Mertz needs some help.
I agree. All right, 2 in, 1 to go. We're going to kick off the next hour, do a little outdoors chats. We'll chat with our good buddy, Mr. Jake Bolks, DNR warden. Catch up on what's going on in the good, great outdoors of here, Wisconsin. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
WAYY Eau Claire. W286CK Eau Claire. Sport.
Talking about the Packers had one roster spot open heading into training camp. That's no longer the case. They signed one of their tryout players from yesterday, tight end from the USFL, Sal Canella. So there you go. Don't know anything about him other than he played for the USFL and he was one of the top tight ends in the USFL with the Breakers.
Well, there have been others that came from some of those offshoot leagues that have been turned out to be very good NFL players.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Hill's in the Hall of Fame, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, remember Reggie White started.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's a 6'5", 230 pounds. He ranked 6th overall and first among tight ends in the USFL with 34 receptions, 368 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
How fast is he? They gives 40.
I have no idea. He was in the draft a couple of years ago, so he's never signed on with a team, but drafted in the USFL. So, but we'll see. See if he's. I mean, depth-wise for tight end, he might be getting some early practice time depending on Bobby Tunyon.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I mean, so we'll see. But
maybe that indicates too that they're confident Bakhtiari can play and they don't have to go after another tackle. So, what you can read a lot of things into something like that.
Definitely. And that doesn't mean that they won't release anybody or, do some last-minute roster juggling. Remember a couple of years ago, they released Mike Daniels right before the opening of training camp, which surprised a lot of people out there. But,
including Mike Daniels.
Yeah. I think now it's just that at the point where a lot of these teams are like, we're going to go in, and if there are injuries that happen, because there's still some bigger name free agents out there, they might just open up training camp, see what they got, see the guys in action. If they're not satisfied, then they'll look, or if there's injuries, all right, then we'll go dip our toes back into the water.
Yeah, I think you want to go with your draft choices, give them, and some of your free agents that you signed, some of your undrafted kids, bring them in, give them a shot. It's a different world now. It's harder for these guys to make an impression because you don't have the contact in camp that you used to have, where, a good example is Tim Crumry. He got drafted in the 5th round by Cincinnati, but he was drafted back when there was a lot of contact and a lot of scrimmages in preseason and in training camp. And that's where he really made he came out as an All-American. He was a great player at Wisconsin. It's not like he was a nobody, but he was a 5th round draft choice. He made his chops in the preseason, and they found out this is a kid that wants to play. He's got a nonstop heart. He's not afraid of contact. And, that's where he made a lot. And other players, through history, you can name a lot of them, but they don't have that opportunity now like they used to. They only, it used to be those grass drills and two-a-days and pads. Now they're so limited. It just is hard. And it's harder to find kids. I'm sure there's some that get caught in the backwash that probably could play if they would have had a better chance to show themselves. Football is a contact sport. You don't play football in shorts and T-shirts. And unfortunately, there's a lot of training camp that is shorts and T-shirts, or maybe with the helmet on and pads, but no nothing below the waist type of thing. So how much contact do they have? How much chance they really have to show themselves that, I'm going to stick my nose in here every chance I get. It's a different world.
Before, I know we got to do another break here quickly, but since, remember Pittsburgh, the Steelers, they changed, they got a new sponsor for their stadium and that. Add another
dumb name.
Add another NFL team that will be changing names, Paul Brown Stadium. Paul Brown Stadium went over 2 decades without having a corporate sponsor. But according to the Cincinnati Enquirer, the Bengals are close to a deal for the naming rights of the stadium, the first name change in the stadium's history. That would mean that only Soldier Field and Lambeau Field are the last 2 NFL stadiums without a corporate name.
And have you heard that they're talking about trying to put some kind of a roof on Soldier Field or do something with Soldier Field? I don't know how you can retrofit a roof on there. Maybe they can.
Well, it'd be in the new location that they bought, so they build a new stadium.
Well, yeah, but there were talk that they don't want to move it out of downtown Chicago, and they want to put a roof on Soldier Field.
Yeah, well, I know they bought some new land.
Oh, yeah, they have out by Arlington Park, out where the old racetrack was, and that would change the demeanor of going to a Bears game. It just would.
All about the money, so they can get basketball games in that stadium,
Yep.
Final Fours, and all that fun stuff there. But I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if Soldier Field gets renamed corporate sponsor. I wouldn't be surprised. And then Lambeau Field will be the last one.
Yeah.
Seaver defer, do you think eventually Lambeau Field will have a sponsor to it?
Not in my lifetime. I'll defer. Maybe
not even
in your
like
lifetime, but not in my lifetime. I don't think. I don't. It's Packers are owned by the people. The Bears are owned by the McCaskey family, and if they see that they need or want that extra multi-million dollars to name their stadium, they will. But Bears are still much more of a community feeling of a team than, say, the Vikings or any other team. The Packers are obviously in a different world with a community ownership, but I think the Bears are still a real Chicago team. I just think it is.
This is an interesting thing too with the Bengals thing because Paul Brown, his Mike Brown is the president.
Yep.
But I was reading here, the stadium is actually owned by Hamilton County, so any sponsorship profits would go to the county and the city. It doesn't go to the Bengals.
Well, that's interesting,
right?
I wonder why it hasn't happened before.
Yeah,
because these municipalities, they're always looking for ways to find some money.
Unless they're hoping now to. I know the one thing that Bengals fans or Bengals people talk about, they don't have an indoor practice facility. Maybe there's a little wink, wink. We'll build a practice facility.
That's a very big possibility
for that. I don't know. I'm throwing that one out there,
that's
but
all possible. But
I don't
that's
know.
Interesting if it's owned, but all the revenue would go to the county and the municipality. Why they haven't done it before?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the?
Because usually you hear this and that's more money for the franchise.
Yeah, exactly.
Right into that, but interesting.
No, that's interesting in Green Bay. If they would name Lambeau, would the naming right and the money for that go to the Packers, or would it go to the city of Green Bay or the Brown County?
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting to see too. But I don't think Brown County or the city of Green Bay would ever even consider something like that with the current ownership. I mean, the Packers have, they've got enough money, my Lord. They don't need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe in Hamilton County there where the Bengals are, maybe the municipality needs the money for whatever.
Yeah, because the owner for Lambeau is the city and the professional football stadium district.
Yeah, what that means, I don't know.
So
is that the
Green Bay, Brown
Bay?
County professional football stadium district? So
whatever that means, but but I don't think I'll ever see, and I don't think. But truth be told, I don't think you will ever either.
No,
the Lambeau Field have a different name.
Part of me is wondering, would it be like so and so at Lambeau Field or something like that?
No, that's possible, but I don't think we'd ever get rid of that Lambeau Field.
I don't think either.
I mean, years ago it was City Stadium, and
New City Stadium.
And then it became Lambeau with the facility they have now. But I don't think my gut tells me no.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see how they would do it. I just don't think it would be popular among the people.
No, I don't think it would.
Green Bay fans are. One of the things you got pride in is you don't have a named stadium.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your tradition there of Lambeau Field, and I don't think that'll ever change.
I mean, even if you go to the pro shop, they've got shirts and sweatshirts and hats with just Lambeau Field on it. Lambeau Field 1957.
Mm-hmm.
With the name. I mean, it's a part of the culture over there. The field itself, the name of the field, Lambeau Field. How many other stadiums can say that? You got Wrigley, you got Fenway.
Yeah, I mean, would you ever name the Roman Coliseum? Not the Roman Coliseum, it's McDonald Field, obviously, or McDonald War. I don't know, but some places are just iconic.
Now, if it was where the NFL did not have a salary cap, and it was all kind of like baseball, and naming rights would help draw in free agents, does that change it a little bit?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think so, and I think the people would realize that because the people that are Packer fans want to be and demand to be competitive, and I think they do what needs to be done. I think it would be the kind of name though that you said, be it DuPont Stadium at Lambeau Field, or Ford Stadium at Lambeau Field. I don't know how they would do it, but I think that would make a difference.
I do too. All right, we got to take our final break here this morning, so we'll do that. Last call for any shout-outs or toasts or anything like that. Baseball gets back up today. Got a good series starting up there with the Yankees and the Astros. Brewers will kick off their series, 4-game series against the Rockies starting tomorrow. We'll do some covering the bases coming up in just a couple minutes.
You're listening to the Dan Kasper Show.